It was the height of the Cold War, and tensions between the Soviet Union and the United States were at an all-time high. But while the two superpowers were locked in a struggle for global supremacy, there was another race happening in secret, a race to explore the depths of space. The Soviet Union had been the first to launch a satellite, the first to send a man into orbit, and now, they had done the unthinkable. They had landed a spacecraft on the moon. The world was in awe of the Soviet Union's accomplishments, but little did they know what horrors awaited them on the lunar surface. The mission had been shrouded in secrecy from the very beginning, with only a select few high-ranking officials knowing the true purpose of the mission. The Soviet Union had long been obsessed with the occult and the supernatural, and they believed that the moon was a source of untold power and mystery. They had poured vast resources into developing technology to explore the lunar surface, and their efforts had paid off. They had discovered something truly terrifying. The crew of the Soviet spacecraft had landed on the far side of the moon, in a region that had never been seen by human eyes. As they stepped out onto the lunar surface, they were greeted by a sight that chilled them to the bone. The landscape was dotted with strange, towering structures that seemed to defy the laws of physics. They were made of a material that the cosmonauts had never seen before, a twisted, black metal that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. The cosmonauts soon discovered that the structures were not abandoned. They were inhabited by a race of beings that defied description, beings that had long ago abandoned their physical bodies and had become beings of pure thought and energy. The cosmonauts tried to communicate with them, but the beings were hostile, and their thoughts were filled with madness and malice. As the cosmonauts explored the lunar landscape, they began to experience strange phenomena. Their instruments malfunctioned, their communications were jammed, and they were plagued by bizarre hallucinations. They soon realized that they were not alone on the moon. The beings had infiltrated their minds and were using them as pawns in a terrifying game. One by one, the cosmonauts began to succumb to the madness. They turned on each other, lashing out in fits of violent rage. They began to see things that weren't there, dark shapes moving in the shadows, voices whispering in their ears. And always, there was the presence of the beings, watching from the shadows, manipulating their thoughts and emotions. The final cosmonaut to succumb was Yuri, the mission commander. He had been the most stoic and level-headed of the crew, but even he could not withstand the onslaught of madness and terror. He began to see visions of a future where the beings had conquered Earth, a future where humanity had been enslaved by their dark power. And in that moment, he knew what he had to do. Yuri activated the self-destruct sequence on the spacecraft, knowing that it was the only way to prevent the beings from returning to Earth. As the countdown began, he could hear the laughter of the beings in his mind, mocking his feeble attempts to resist their power. But he refused to let them win. He closed his eyes, whispered a prayer to whatever gods might be listening, and waited for the end. The explosion was heard on Earth, and the world mourned the loss of the brave cosmonauts who had sacrificed their lives for the sake of humanity. But the truth of what happened on the moon remained a secret, buried under layers of Soviet bureaucracy and propaganda. The Soviet Union continued its dominance of the space race, sending more missions to the moon and even establishing a permanent base on its surface. But rumors began to circulate among the scientific community, rumors of strange occurrences on the lunar surface, of unexplained phenomena and mysterious disappearances. And as more countries began to explore space, they too began to encounter the strange beings that had haunted the Soviet cosmonauts. It soon became clear that the Soviet Union had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The beings on the moon were not content to remain confined to their lunar prison. They were spreading, infecting the minds of those who dared to venture into the depths of space. And so, a new race began, a race to uncover the truth about the beings and to find a way to stop them before it was too late. But the beings were clever, and they remained one step ahead of their pursuers, always staying one step ahead in the shadows. And so, the horror on the moon continued, a silent menace that threatened to consume all who dared to venture into the darkness of space. The Soviet Union may have won the space race, but in doing so, they had unleashed a terror that would haunt humanity for generations to come. As the years passed, more and more nations sent missions to the moon, hoping to uncover the secrets of the beings that had haunted the Soviet cosmonauts. But each time they did, they found only more questions and more horrors. Scientists studying the lunar samples brought back by the missions found traces of the strange, alien material that the Soviet cosmonauts had encountered. The material seemed to have a consciousness of its own, and those who studied it soon found themselves consumed by an unexplainable dread. As the years turned into decades, the fear of the beings on the moon began to spread, becoming a pervasive and unsettling presence in the public consciousness. People whispered of strange occurrences in space, of ships disappearing without a trace, of cosmonauts returning to Earth forever changed. And still, the beings remained a mystery, their true nature and intentions unknown. Some speculated that they were ancient beings, older than the universe itself, while others suggested that they were the product of some unimaginable experiment gone wrong. But despite the fear and uncertainty that the beings on the moon had wrought, humanity continued to explore the cosmos, driven by an insatiable curiosity and the desire to understand the universe and our place within it. And so, the horror on the moon remained, a silent reminder of the dangers that lurked in the darkness of space. And while humanity may never truly understand the beings that had haunted the Soviet cosmonauts, they would continue to venture forth, driven by the hope that one day, they might unlock the secrets of the universe and find the answers to the mysteries that lay beyond our world.